Welcome to Brown Skin Bombshell, where every brown skin woman is celebrated, whether you're Asian, Indian, African, African American, Mexican, it does not matter. Here you are celebrated. Y'all, I am super excited about my guest today, my good friend Tazora Moore. We have been talking about having her on the show forever, and now the time has come, and I'm so grateful for that. She is the woman and the drive behind Hear My Cry Foundation. And now she is here, and I'm going to interview her remotely. So let's go. So, how are you feeling today, honey?
I'm doing good, and yourself?
Doing pretty good. I mean, it's been a while. I haven't seen you in a while, but on Facebook, I guess I'm kind of in we in each other's
Right.
lives. Some kind of way, some kind of way. But definitely, this is very meaningful to me as well. And I already know it is to you. This is your passion and everything. So I want the viewers to get to know you. I want people who don't know who you are. I want them to know what you stand for and that you are there for people. This is a day and age where a mental capacity is on overload.
Right. Correct. Absolutely.
Yes,
Absolutely.
for a lot of people. Um, so let's go ahead and go and talk about Hear My Cry. Hear My Cry. What is Hear My Cry?
So I want to introduce myself. My name is Tazora Moore. I'm the founder of Hear My Cry Foundation. I founded my organization in 2013. I lost my husband to suicide in 2012. So that really opened up my eyes that the Black and Brown community really need resources and awareness around suicide and mental health. So I started the organization in 2013. We provide free counseling to anyone that are suicidal but do not have insurance. We
Okay.
do burial assistance and we also do medication assistance. We host a man-to-man support group at the cigar lounges. We also go out to the football league. The little league football teams and kind of introduce counseling to them and then do like a mental check-in once a month with them as well. So when you say hear my cry, what is hear my cry? It's a safe place. It's a safe place for anyone, not just Black and brown, but anyone that are feeling hopeless, anyone that just need that extra push, anyone that just want to hear their just want to hear their side of the story, want to hear, just getting things off their chest. We're
Right.
here. And we're
Okay.
gonna definitely hear your cry and get you the resources that you need. I understand some people don't need medication for mental health. Some people just need to be heard, and from that standpoint, will get them to the next level of their life. So that's what Hear My Cry is.
Mhm. Now, I want to take you back because you said your husband took his life. How old were you guys?
I was 25.
25.
I was 25. We got married when I was like maybe 20. I can't remember the years. But we got married in '09.
Okay.
We met in '07.
Okay.
And he took his life in 2012. So
2012.
that was, yeah, so that's the timeline. He Prior to us meeting, his family did tell me that he attempted twice.
Okay.
But the lack of my knowledge of what mental health is, that's not something that I talked about in my community
Right.
or even in my home. So I just felt like, oh, it was just a phase in his life that he was going through. He didn't have any kids, he didn't have any family, a wife. So,
Right.
that's behind him.
Right.
But not knowing that he needed professional help.
He needed professional.
He,
He needed
he,
more
he
than what you could provide for him.
absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely, absolutely.
And it puts me in a personal place because I've been there myself, at a younger
Mm,
age from childhood trauma that I never dug into and had therapy for. So in my early 20s, I kind of, fell off into that, felt that way. And so I get it. I get it. It's not a foreign thing as people try to make it seem like it is, but it's really not because I feel like in every household, sometimes in your life, you may be at a low point where you feel that way.
And I could attest to that. That's true. I never experienced a suicidal thoughts. I have felt defeated, but I never, got to that point where, I wanted to end my life. However, it was an eye opener for me because I was with him day in and day out and did not know that he was dealing with mental health to that capacity. So I think once I lost him to suicide, it was really hard for me because I was, beating myself up in the beginning. Like, how did I miss the signs? How
Mm,
did I not know that, he really needed the professional help? And I'm not going to say that I did not know, but he definitely wasn't willing to do counseling. I've introduced him to counseling.
so
We did marriage counseling. He was
mhm.
down for that. We completed it. But when it came to his personal counseling, him doing personal counseling, he was like, he didn't want to pay nobody to listen to his problems. And, that's the stigma that counselors have, that they feel like they on the other side of the table and they have a clipboard and they just, writing down, all the bad things that's going on in their life and, whatnot. But it's not like that. This is someone that you could build a relationship with. This is
Mhm.
someone that can help you process,
Yeah,
the things that you've been through, the things that you're going through, and the
yeah.
things that you will be going through, and just like how you have your physical doctor number in your
Mhm.
phone, you don't talk to your doctor every day,
No,
and you wouldn't be talking to your counselor every day, but you're going to call your doctor when you feeling something. Hey, I need to go to the doctor, just like counseling. When I feel, hey, I feel defeated right now, let me call my counselor and, just talk to him. Just that hour will really make a difference. But
mhm.
I couldn't advocate because I didn't know.
You didn't know.
I didn't know.
You weren't the
So
person you are today, so you didn't have
definitely
that
not. Cause
knowledge.
I would have been like, boy, we fit to go shopping and would have pulled him up at the counseling office.
Okay,
Like, yes.
you would have been like, hey, I got to do anything I
I
can.
know it's definitely not an answer. I would go with you,
Right,
but
right.
I didn't know.
You didn't know. You didn't know.
I did not know.
And where do you feel just personally, and all the research and everything that you have done? Where does that did not know start?
As growing up, have your parents ever told you, hey, let's go to counseling?
Nope, never
Not
heard
mine,
about it.
but they would tell you, hey, you got something going on, you need to pray. Mom, I don't see no shit, but you need to pray harder. And and if it's God's will, and that is good. I'm not downplaying the power of God. However, if you have cancer, you're not gonna pray. You're gonna go get up and you're gonna go to the doctor and you're gonna see what needs to be done. And mental health is what drives us daily. We need our mental.
Yeah,
So if our mental state is healthy, then everything in our life will be healthy. And I don't think that we understand it because when people is dealing with a mental illness, it's not something that we could physically see.
right, right. It's
And
invisible.
that's the this yes, and that's the disconnect because we can't look at someone and say, "Hey, you look sick today.
Right,
Hey, are you okay?"
right.
It's all about their actions. So when I do look back, I remember that week. I
Mm,
remember just constantly asking him like, "What's wrong? What's going on?" And
right,
it was just like nothing. I just thought that he was just tired. He worked. He was like a workaholic. He
right.
loved working to provide for his family,
Okay,
but it was deeper than that.
it was
It
deeper
was
than
deeper than that. The night before, he ended his life. He had cut off his mohawk, and I remember this conversation vivid because his mohawk was like his signature. And I asked him like,
mm,
why you cut your mohawk off?" And he was like, I don't know, just did something different.
mm.
That right there was a sign
It was. It was
that
a
I
huge
missed.
sign.
It was a huge sign, but I didn't know.
You didn't know.
So I'm just thinking like, oh, okay, well, you just changing your haircut. So
Mm,
it's a lot of times the signs is very they not very alarming for us
right,
to say, hey, you need this type of help. It's always when we look back. And
right.
I just want everybody to know that it doesn't matter if someone tell you that they feel like they want to end their life, take that serious.
Mm,
Don't brush it off because even if, just think, when you prep yourself for something, you challenging yourself, you just keep telling yourself that. So
Right.
no, they might not be suicidal at that time, but if they keep drilling it in their head, eventually they're gonna test it.
That can happen. That can
And
definitely
it could
happen.
be either a attempt or it could be a success. So don't take that lightly.
Yeah.
Please don't.
So I can remember just being in a household that when I look back now that I'm the person I am now, when I do look back, I'm like, I think, and I'm not trying to be funny, I think everybody in my grandma's house had a mental problem. Something was going on with everybody. It was handed down trauma, handed
Hmm.
down and overlooked. And
Absolutely.
yeah, overlooked. And everybody had something that was going to, they felt like was going to help them make it through with that trauma. You know, my mother, that was drugs. My grandpa, that was alcohol. My grandma, she buried herself in church. I mean, when you just look back, everybody was dealing with something that wasn't being dealt with at all. At all.
I agree, but I just feel like people just need a
Yes.
counselor, period.
Yeah, they
It don't
do.
necessarily have to be trauma, because that's not my story. I'm not gonna say that I had a perfect life.
Right.
However, it's just going through life, transitioning through life. Leaving my mom house, going to college. That was a big transition to me, because
Right.
I wasn't on my own. I never
Yeah.
understood. So I get to college and this is big ground, and my mom sheltered me, so I didn't know how to balance. I just saw freedom, so I'm
Yeah.
going to every club, every party. But
Yes.
if I had a counselor to kind of like walk me through that process,
Right.
it don't necessarily have to be trauma. It could just be
We just need it.
transitioning.
We just need
Yeah,
it.
you just need it. Yes,
We just need
absolutely.
it. I mean, now that I am in therapy, I absolutely love it and it feels good. And I feel like before this therapy, my friends was my therapy because
Yes.
hey, let me tell you something, baby. I'm going to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and be there. Now, I might be falling asleep on you on the phone. I'm going to have to do something every now and then to wake on up, but I'm going to be there because I do have that, you know, fear that if you don't try to be there for somebody, you never know where their capacity level is. Because a person can say, man, I'm just down in that, but I'm going to get through it. I'm going to be all right. We be like, all right, girl, all right. Now, I need to know, can we talk? Can we meet up?
Right.
And I think that
Absolutely.
with women, it's easier. But with men, it's so
Absolutely.
much shame to say, what's up, dog? What's up? Man, today my mental ain't right. Or I'm not feeling like I want the life that I have. And I want to
Mhm.
know, what does that mean?
Right.
Because it can mean a lot of things. So I think now I'm more aware of that with my friends and family members, my mom, just, everybody. I'm definitely more aware.
Yes, I think that's part of the reason why men is their rating is so high, because they don't have a safe place. And I don't think it's because of their friends don't know how. I mean, don't want to be there, but I just think that they don't know how, because in our culture, we teach our boys at an early age to suck it up. You don't have emotions,
And don't cry.
so right. And when they become a man, we trying to figure out, like, why you don't tell me how you feel? Why, and it's because they done suppress it so long that they don't even know how they feel.
Right,
So I just feel like, it's just levels. I think a lot of time it does consider to be in our culture. We just always just been taught to pray about it and
right,
put it in God's hand. It never was go pray and you also go to your counselor and you talk about it, or it's a round table. I remember
right.
growing up and they was like, oh, he just crazy, or your uncle just crazy, and I just
Yeah,
considered that as just crazy. So when I think of mental illness, I just thought, oh, that person is crazy, but it's beyond that.
it's
And we have to
beyond that.
break that stigma so people could come out and actually feel comfortable and say, hey, I need help.
I
Hey,
can help.
today is not the day,
Right.
and it doesn't mean that it's going to be consistently, but you have to raise your hand
Yes.
and say that you need help so you could get the resources that you need to help you be a better version of yourself.
So, for the person that's out there watching you right now, and listening to you and feeling like they may be overwhelmed with things and they want to get help, but they don't have insurance, or they don't, they don't know how to go about getting the things that are offered, maybe income based out there. What advice would you say to them?
I'm proud of you for even acknowledging that you need the resources that you're looking for, and you could actually start with reaching out to me. My website is hearmycryfoundation.org. We will link you up with a counselor. And then a counselor, after the 3 sessions, that counselor could, work with you on the sliding scale to provide the resources and continue to give you the sources that you need. And also, you could always text 988. That's a crisis line where if you want to be anonymous fully, you could text them and actually give them the resources, letting them know what's going on. And 9 times out of 10, if you're in the Dallas, Texas area, you will be recommended to my organization.
Okay.
However, just if you want to have someone on that other line that's a licensed counselor, I'm not a licensed counselor, but I'm the bridge in between someone that is suicidal and someone who need counseling.
Okay. Okay. So we've talked about the suicide. We've talked about the foundation. How strong was your mental capacity to be able to pick up the pieces and continue to raise your children?
I just tell you, you really don't know how strong you is until it's time to be strong. At that moment, I couldn't even see life, even when I was married and you have those thoughts like, wow, what would I do if something happened to him? I couldn't see past that. I always get teary eyed because I didn't that was my first marriage. My last two babies was with him, and I made a vow to myself that, I had my oldest one, I wasn't
Mhm.
married, so I was like, you know what, next time I have kids, I'm gonna get married. I was raised in a Christian family, so that's what they drilled in us. So I was like, I don't want to be a single mom, raising a whole lot of kids. And I'm not downplaying, but you know how that is really driven in our community of,
Right.
you need to get married and you need to have kids. And I tried to do it the right way and still ended up in a place where I was trying to avoid. So
Mhm.
just to say how strong I was, I struggle with that because now I'm a single mom with 3 kids, not one. So man, am I gonna find me another husband and somebody gonna want me? And I'm not saying that this happened, I thought about this when it first happened because when it first happened, no, I'm trying to figure out. I just had a one
Right.
year old.
Right.
So I was an at home mom. So I haven't worked in years. So now I'm in survival mode of how and what am I gonna do next? Because I've been, on cruise control in my soft girl era all this time that I ain't have to think
Yes,
about, don't get me
man.
twisted now. I've been in survival mode, but I was, your nervous system was, I was all right for a couple of years.
Right, right, right.
And for that to happen overnight, it was devastating. It
Devastating.
was devastating. From me, it was devastating that I even had to explain it to my kids.
Mm.
Just to be fully transparent, he left letters. So just even going through that process of reading the letters, my oldest son, my middle son, he asked just last week, to read the letters. So it's not just because I have this organization for years, it's still an ongoing process
Right.
of dealing with a suicide. And I think people that going through it, they feel like they the problem, but not knowing that you guys touch a lot of lives. And although you're probably in a better place, we still struggle with
Mhm.
the why. We still have to pick up the pieces that you guys left us. Even with my babies, they was 1, 5, and 8. That was a whole transition that my baby just graduated, and I
Mm.
wish my daddy was here. These are the conversations that I still deal with,
That you have with
on
your
a
children.
regular. Absolutely. I have a daughter. My daughter was the youngest. So, we having father and daughter dance that she, wished that she could attend because he was, that he wasn't here. So when
Right,
you say how strong, I still can't answer that because I still have my moments that I could wish that I could dig him up and ask why.
right. I
Why?
mean, it's just you just being honest. That's just for real.
Why?
You know.
Why?
So what are you doing with the kids on a regular basis to make sure that their mental has to be at a certain place?
I'm not gonna tell you on a daily. However, I do check with my boys and I ask them, how they feel. They do have a counselor,
Okay.
and when they get
So
to a certain
ongoing
age,
therapy as well. Ongoing therapy.
um, probably when they turn probably about 13, 14, they feel like they didn't need a counselor.
Okay.
Which I'm okay with that because they have a rapport with the one, so they know. Okay, let me back. I had my babies in counseling, so
Okay.
my middle boy figured out that he could use counseling as a leverage of when he get ready to get in trouble. I just need to talk to the one. I just need to talk to the one. I'm
Mm,
just going through something. And so I had to find balance in that because, like,
okay.
do you really need help or are you using this to, get out of trouble?
Okay.
But as the time go on, yes, they do have a relationship with a counselor. I can't
Okay.
tell you if they call them now because they 18 and 22. I'm pretty sure they feel
Uh,
like they don't need it.
yeah.
But just introducing them to it, and they do know that he's just a phone call away.
They knew.
But I do have those check-ins with my babies. I talk to them. I try to be as transparent as I can with their fathers. The last two really don't remember him, so I try to. I respect how they feel. I was talking to
Mhm.
my middle son, and just him feeling like, he's telling me that he feel like his dad is weak. These are things that I'm left like looking. I don't want to go back and forth with him because those is his feelings and I
Right.
have to validate his feelings. But in that moment, I don't. But I will always backdoor like 2 or 3 days later and explain to him, that your daddy did the best that he could. He loved y'all,
Yeah.
and just trying to give him that sense of comfort that how you feel is that's how you feel. I
Yeah.
can't dispute how you feel, but that's not how he really is, and that's not how he really was. And he'll be like, all right, yeah, but I just can't see my, how boys is, I just can't see
Yeah.
myself leaving my kids. And I just try to explain to them, like, when people is dealing with a mental illness,
They
they
can
do not
override
think,
anything that's
yes,
instilled in you.
they not thinking rationally.
Right. Right.
Yep.
That's
So it's an ongoing process,
it's an
So
ongoing
it's
process.
I do have a successful foundation, but baby, I still be
It's an
having my
ongoing
wild.
process. Yes. I got it.
Yeah,
I got it.
absolutely.
I got it. What do you feel about people that kind of now I'm talking about kids even I mean because uh the rate is up even for teenagers taking their lives. So what do you feel about can you talk to the parents right now that feel like, oh, they just need a whooping or they just need this or that, but wholly ignoring the fact that this child has the ability to take their own life? What do you think about parents that do that? What could you say to that? Because a lot of people, I feel like they feel like a child is so young that they don't even have the mental capacity to be even thinking about taking their lives. But the rate is up for teenagers committing suicide. And under, I mean, and under, because I mean, I read about a girl that was like, I think she was 10 and she took her life because she was getting bullied. But her family didn't think that, hey, she's only 10. She's not going to do anything to herself. They didn't even look at that. But the reality was she was, and she did.
That was an eye opener for me because I actually helped bury a 10-year-old,
Mm,
and that was a moment that I had to get zoomed in on my kids.
okay.
And I buried that boy in my early years of just starting my organization.
Okay.
So I did have that mindset of like, they just kids, they just going through whatever they're going through. But when I actually had to help a mother
Mm,
bury a 10-year-old, all things came through my mind, because I remember when I was 10, I was just playing with dolls.
Right.
I
Right.
had no care in the world, but as a parent, I just listen to your babies. Be an advocate for your babies. Even if you feel like you don't need counseling, give them all the tools that you could give them at an early age because they're going to need them as they grow older.
Okay.
They might not, might not understand it, at a 10, 11, 12. But like I said, I introduced my babies to counseling. So now that they 18 and 22 and they get a jammed up, they have their counselor number in their phone. But one thing is that a lot of parents, it's not that we do it intentionally because we're in survival mode. We got so much on our plate, especially if you're a single mom. You stretch. I had 3 kids, so I'm stretched this way, that way, and another way because each kid need a different version of me. But I have to be an advocate for my child. You do. And you have to validate their feelings, even if you don't agree with their
Mm.
feelings, because that's their perception, and
Yeah.
just listen. Sometimes they just want to be heard. It's plenty of times I'm looking at these kids like if y'all talking about y'all got it out the mud, I'm trying to figure out what mud.
Yeah,
And
they love to
I'm
say
looking at
they'll
them
get it
like,
out the
okay,
mud.
so look, I'm asking, so what you mean by that?
Yeah,
Oh,
well,
because
when did
I had to pay for my V Bucks. Like
baby?
if
Look, let me tell you something. Let me give you a recipe to a ketchup sandwich.
That's what I had to ask him. Have y'all had a syrup sandwich? I mean,
Baby,
I haven't either, but this is what I've heard. I'm not gonna
right,
downplay my mom as putting me in a place where, I really didn't have those struggles as well. However, what I said that to say, you still have to validate these kids' feelings,
yeah,
because their perception is totally different than ours, and sometimes as a mother, we feeling like we doing our best,
right,
and that's not even what they need. We're trying to keep them in joys and we're trying to keep it in designers, and all they want us to do is just sit down and just listen to them.
yeah,
All they want to do is just be able to sit down on your bed and just talk to you about, what's going on in their world. And I'm looking at my
right,
kids like, and your point.
yeah,
But they just listen, and
yeah,
I listen to them and I give
yeah,
them that space
yeah.
where they could come and talk to me because I didn't have that space growing up. Our
No,
parents was more so, what I tell you to do is what I tell you to do, and
that's it.
don't ask no questions behind
Yeah,
it.
because
Or
yeah,
if I tell you to do something, and I explain to my kids, it's a right and a wrong way. If you
exactly.
feel I'm in a heated situation, don't go back and forth with me because it's going to be escalated. But you do what I tell you to do, and then on down the day, you can
Mm-hmm.
come to me and tell me and express to me, Mama, you took that the wrong way, or Mama, you was wrong,
Yeah,
or I didn't, just giving them that space to be them, but set boundaries
okay.
as well. Because I'm not, yeah,
Well, I'm just so proud of you for keeping your husband's legacy alive. Regardless of the suicide, I know he was a great person and he had
yeah,
something to offer, but he just did not know that. And he is truly loved and truly missed, I know. And I'm just so grateful that you had the strength to make it bigger than you. You understand? You made it's bigger than you. You didn't focus on what the absence was. You focused on the future of others by creating
yes.
this wonderful foundation. And I think that's just an amazing thing. It
And
really is.
I appreciate that. And that's what keep me going is that I know that, I didn't have the tools to save him, but now that I do, I try to save as many people as I possibly can in his
Okay.
honor, and a lot of times we don't understand that sometimes it do take a sacrifice to be able to find your putting in the life, your mission, your vision,
Okay.
because sometimes I think about like if what would I be doing if he was still here?
Yeah.
And it's kind of bittersweet. I'm not going to
Oh
say
yeah.
that, I'm okay with where I am because at the end of the day, I did lose my husband.
Yes, you did.
But I do get the satisfaction of being able to save so many people in his life, and in his honor, and
Right.
I'm doing what I absolutely love doing. It doesn't feel like a job. I found my mission on earth, and I'm appreciative of it. Sometimes it do get hard. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
lie and say, it's plenty of times that I want to, shut down, but it's people depending on my
They
organization.
depending on you. You got to keep
Yeah,
moving.
gotta
And
keep
I'm just
moving.
so grateful that you can do that. Any events coming up with Hear My Cry? Anything you want to tell the people?
Of course, so I have my annual, this year is our 11th annual motorcycle ride for suicide awareness. It's
Okay.
July the 18th. We ride from Turl to Liz Ziegler in DeSoto. We started Turl at Ben Gill Park, and on the route to DeSoto, we pass by my husband's cemetery where we do a balloon release as the motorcycles pass by. At the end of the ride, we have a free community event at Liz Ziegler from 10 to 2, where
Okay.
we have speakers, vendors, raffles. This year we'll be raffling off bikes, giving away free bikes to kids. So it's a free event. We have DJs, we have, just suicide awareness, we have vendors, other nonprofits that,
Okay.
I'm trying to expose for the community, because a lot of times people want the help, but they don't even know where to start to get
Right.
the help that they need. So just plugging in the community on resources, plugging in the community to let us know that we're here, and you could use our resources if needed.
Okay. Okay. That sounds wonderful. And I'm definitely going to have to get with you about my KIP foundation. It's called Glitter Girls for little girls from ages 5 and up. Well, from 5 to 18. Usually it's like 5 to 16 that come to stuff. But um, yeah, because I think that's an important medium for young girls to have awareness now. I want to be what brownies and Girl Scouts was to me. I want to be what
Yes.
I didn't have to them, and just creating a safe space about abuse and boundaries and things like that. So, and suicide. We talk about that
Yes.
too. We talk about that too. So definitely I will be getting with you with that. So if somebody wanted to volunteer for the Hear My Cry Foundation, who do they contact? What do they need to do?
They actually go to my website, hearmycryfoundation.org. It's a volunteer page on there. It's a donation page.
Okay.
You can actually go to my website and look at the things that we are doing. It's also a form to let us know that you want to be a part or you want to partner. So everything that you're looking for, information, my story, the upcoming events, all of that is on my website at hearmycryfoundation.org.
Okay. Well, I know you got a busy Saturday ahead of you today. I know you said you had an event today. I hope everything goes wonderful. And I am just so good. I feel so good about this, and I'm glad that we were able to get on. And like I said, we're going to go live in the future, so I'll let you know. And okay, so that's July. I'm gonna look. I'm gonna look and share it off your website. I'll share it off your
Okay.
website. I might not do the tarot, but I'll come to DeSoto. So I'm gonna get that
Absolutely.
information. So yes, I would love to come out because I've been invited before and I had not come. And this is my season of showing up, actually
Yes.
showing up and not
Yes.
just wanting to do stuff or saying it, but just actually making those
Yeah.
moves. Making those moves at the tender age of 53. I'm feeling good and just loving life and just ready to pour full throttle. And that's what I'm all about. So,
I'm
yes, I'm
good.
glad that. And so I'm giving you a little virtual hug, girl. Love you.
I miss you. It's been
Yeah,
a
I
while.
know. We're going to have
Yeah,
to get together. We definitely do. We definitely have to make it
absolutely.
happen and everything. So, well, I'll be touching bases with you, and you have a fabulous day, y'all. This is the Hear My Cry Foundation. Please share the podcast. Actually, come out to the events because it sounds really, really fun. So, coming
Yes.
out to events, meeting people, and just spreading this awareness that helps all races, all
Yes,
backgrounds,
for
and
sure.
everything. It does not discriminate at all.
No,
So
at
being
all.
there and yes, and I can't wait till the next live. So I'll talk to you later and much love and signing off. Talk
Yes,
to you later.
bye. Thank
Bye.
you.